What's going on, guys? Kaiger here. We're doing PvE and PvP tier list for fairies at the end of January 2025. Let's get into it. Alright guys, first we got patch notes saying that on the 4th, so this coming up week, there's going to be important stuff being added, big events. We don't know anything about them. I'm hoping to let you guys know a little bit ahead of time as soon as it happens, and one of the other regions. We'll see what happens when that is announced. Now, this is PvP. You can either take a picture here or go on the Discord in the resources channel. I have them all pinned, as well as all the other infographics that I have. All the updated ones are pinned. So I have them kind of in order. This is PvP, so it's including all versions of PvP. I score them 1 through 10 for each type of PvP, and then put them together, and this is what we end up getting. First I go Holy, Fire, Wind, Water, Earth. Not that they're in that range, but within, let's say, Holy right here, these 3 Holy, I believe it's 1, 2, and 3. Meaning the first one is the best, the second one is the second best, and third one is the third best in this rank. Now, starting, we have Milim. She has the lock ability, locking them down. Gives you that attack buff. She also, the damage is whatever. It can kill someone, but it's generally not going to be the thing that really messes with people. It ends up generally being a lock them down. When you bring her up enough, any damage she deals also heals you. And then when you swap to her, she also does an AoE around you, even in game modes that don't have fairies, so like Top League. So you can still slow people. And remember, something like Soul Hunt, as long as they're slowed, you do bonus damage. And this is an extra way to have that in something like Top League. You bring her up, and she's just very, very powerful. Generally a setup fairy. You use her to lock someone down and then hit with another one, such as Urza. She got 2 buffs while she was active. You cannot currently get her in the game, but if you already have her, good job. Her skill's very quick, and then even in game modes where you don't have fairies, whatever class she is on, they have bonus class damage. Snakeberry. And any kind of combat that uses fairies, she's a steroid. Also, something with Milim as well. Milim does a smaller amount. Milim increases damage by your other fairies, but Snakeberry takes this to the extreme. A huge amount of bonus, and then when you bring her up high enough, she also gives it to herself as well. So you have 2 fairies that have ridiculous bonus damage. Really bonkers. Onto Fire, we have Hydra of Flames, very quick damage, anti-dodge. Fire generally isn't good in PvP, but she is very, very good. Even people who don't want to use Fire end up using a Fire swap team specifically to use Hydra of Flames, as well as Winter Cherry that has the rigidity passive that is effective even in Top League or other things that don't have fairies. Going on into Wind, Tranquil Bloomflower is just, if there was an S plus tier, she would be above. She allows you to do certain things that other classes couldn't think of. When you swap to her, your next skill has minus 10-second cooldown, allowing you to do really crazy things like double moon slash or some really ridiculous ninja stuff. Her ability has a good range. It's a knockup, does some damage, but really the passive carries her a lot. Then we have these two. It's hard to talk about one and not talk about the other. These are the defensive wind fairies, but they are both passive and don't require summoning them. Almond Blossom gets you out of CC, as well as even her active gives you a million dodge chance, but you lose some of it each time you dodge, so it's only a few hits, but still really, really good. But her passive, getting you get out of jail free card, and then Eldawise has bonus tenacity, crit immunity specifically, which is better than tenacity. And then her active stops buffs and does poison damage. Blue Rose, definitely the best of all. Water gives you bonus damage if you're high HP. Gives you you take less damage when you're low HP. It is, if you're building a water echo, she is your number one. And number two is Gardenia. Lowers your healing, but generally that's fine because of everything else that she provides your character. Feels like a bad trade-off, but it ends up not mattering most of the time. Earth, we have Birds of Paradise, which is a pretty cracked fairy. Hits multiple times. If you have level 5 or higher Echo, you can immediately hit a road with her, giving you movement speed and damage over time on the opponent, as well as just stun locking people. An interesting thing about stuns, knockups, and things like this is generally if it's immediately right after, like stun, the second one seems to be a little bit less than the first one. But if you put any other kind of CC in between, it does not seem to affect it. So if you hit the first stun and then, let's say, a silence with something like Blazing Owl's third skill, then the second stun will be a full-length stun. Tulip, the gamble, is really, really amazing. Her skill isn't even that crazy, but the gamble adds a whole lot. And Foxglove, giving you that bonus crit, allowing Earth to hit some crazy numbers, allowing you to hit things you probably shouldn't be able to with those crit numbers. Down in the A tier, we're going to go a little bit quicker now that we talked about the big ones. Everyone else, A's and B's are definitely still really good. C's and D's are ones that you probably shouldn't bring, but are options if you have nothing else. Picking up the pace a little bit. Butterfly Orchid gives you a shield, takes some HP but gives you a bigger shield, allowing you to overheal, as well as an anti-move and damage. Another setup fairy just like Milim. We have Sakura, which is also a setup fairy, but her setup is slow. She does give you that defense down and pierce rate, but people are starting to move away from her because more and more fairies are being released that have comparable and better effects. Hibiscus does give you that heal, but Holy's moving in a more damage-centric fashion, that if you are building a tank or semi-tank version, she's very, very good. If not, you're probably going to drop her. Fire's biggest problem is animation speeds, and then you'll see this all the way down. Natsu does crazy damage, does execute at high HP, and then Anathria does execute at low HP, as well as anti-heal. Both have long cast times. If they were cut in like half, they would both be meta, even in PvP. We have Ikoria, anti-death, nothing more to say about that, really what you need her there for. This is a very interesting one, Camellia, and this is primarily because of the last line of her skill. She will give you movement speed as a passive, which, matters in certain game modes, especially if you're holding the package in Legion War, or if you're trying to either chase down people or run away in Shrine Peak. But the tornado says on the last line, if it fails to knock someone up, you deal bonus damage to them. And there's several classes that when they either use a skill or just as a passive, they are immune to knock up and knockback. And it doesn't say that it only cares about its own cannot be knocked up mechanic. So if, let's say, a gladiator is using a gladiator type skill, they cannot be knocked up or knocked back. Well, you're going to hit them between a punitive chop 3 times with a tornado. Tornado is going to give you 3% damage. 3, 6, 9% damage. Adds up pretty quickly. Then with Earth, Anathria just has the high damage pretty quick. Primrose is kind of slow, but it is a decent AoE, as well as damage received down, which is very, very good. Laurel tracks, but has a smaller range than most fairies, does high damage AoE. Mistletoe is another setup fairy, but people are using other setup fairies. You really are limited to the amount of fairies you can really bring. Obviously, you can have 4, but generally people are swapping between 2 or 3 teams. So top 12 is reasonable, but it's not top 4, obviously. Mistletoe, stopping people from using a dodge to get out, obviously important. And then below her, for that same reason, we have Licorice, which does high damage and a long stun, but takes a long time to cast. Dahlia was one-shotting tanks when it came out, but then we figured out Star Blessing counters her, and she's never to be seen again. Rose, the double silence. Silence on cast and silence when the rose finishes can be deadly. But we have other silences in the game that we don't really need this. Camellia, high base damage as well as a knockup, obviously good. Balloon Flower has a pull-in effect and defense down in group PvP. This is very great. This can end up messing up an entire team on something like Guild War. Lavender, this is primarily a support fairy. Put him to sleep and walk away. Or you can try to make it a burst fairy because it does increase your damage dealt to the target until you hit a certain amount of damage. Daisy does reflect damage if they hit someone besides you. Gypsophilia, if you're in a long PvP battle, which pretty much doesn't exist right now, then she will give you a bunch of Star Blessing stacks, which, if you're able to stack it, is very powerful. Would be up in the A tier if you have 7 stacks of Star Blessing. But how are you going to keep the 7 stacks of Star Blessing? Rimuru, probably, depending on other fairies that come out, can probably be moved up to the B tier pretty soon. Rimuru's biggest issue is, one, obviously, it's missile speed, but secondly, the things that it can eat. We've seen it, if you saw my high PvP battle, it was used specifically to counter Milim, because Milim gives you that attack buff and can eat the crit buff from Star Blessing. And then high enough Rimuru is eat 1, give 2. So you eat 2, give 4. So we're getting 4 buffs. That could be some pretty wild buffs. But if it was able to eat more different types of things, right now it's just kind of stat effects. But if it could eat shields and things like this, Rimuru would go up to at least B tier. Diablo. So Rose is AoE and silence. Diablo is single target and faster, which can make him a good choice if you're stuck on fire. Ixoria gives you a big damage boost, but it'll end up putting you in kill range of something like Slaughter or Holy Echo. Hyacinth just gives you cooldown, and then you swap off of him. These two sisters, 1A, 1B, they're always going to be next to each other on pretty much everything. Lotus is a little bit faster and does a drag. And Hydreiga gives you defense up and silence. Then we have Carnation. AoE Circle does one pull. It used to do a progressive pull, so it got worse over time. But we do have a road, so if you're able to keep them in the circle, she can kill an entire team. Made for PvE, made for PvE, made for PvE, made for PvE. Kind of wants to do auto attacks, but we're in a kind of game. We're at a point where you want to be swapping teams, so staying on her so she can do her basics to get the stacks doesn't work. Candok is Candok, and Marigold does do a slow, but it is inaccurate as crap. Going on to PvE, the queen of PvE right now is Snakeberry. As I said, when you bring her high enough, she increases her damage and the next fairy's damage, which just opens up crazy combos, such as Twin Lotus gives you bonus damage to monsters and PvE, so you can do bam bam and just kill something. In long battles, Gypsophilia, just like I said, would be really powerful in PvP with the Star Blessing. It is very powerful in long PvE, like Guild Boss. Level 7, even the level 5 Star Blessing, but a level 7 Star Blessing goes a long way. These three are the Holy Trinity of fire in PvE. Give it, you'll see, Chestnut used to be up here, but there'll be something important why. Give it a fire weakness, very quick, tons of damage. This is something even in in Colosseum and things like this. And Anatheria has the execute damage. She's a little bit slower, but she has the execute damage, which is enough to be up here. Giving us cooldown right there, giving us the tornado and damage increase, giving us damage increase, damage, gamble, bonus crit. Just the cast. You don't even have to actually let her cast the skill, like actually make it hit, but just by pressing the button, Milim's doing enough by giving you that attack buff, as well as your other fairies will do bonus damage. Same with what Snakeberry did. So you can do something like, I will have combos once another fairy or two are added, but you can do something like Milim, Snakeberry, Twin Lotus, Urza, and then something's probably dead. Urza, tons of damage and gives you class damage. Chestnut Rose went down because of how I'm doing the grading, matching everything, and we're having more and more PvE things added to the game that kind of require speed, right? And while she will give you bonus damage, if we look at, like, if we have 2 minutes to do damage, she's going to do more damage than some of these other fairies above her. But if we're trying to kill things in 10 seconds or less, she's not doing it. And we're having more and more game modes added, and people are getting so strong that we are kind of at a point where we're killing things so quickly that even though she adds damage, it doesn't help you that she adds more damage. Natsu has execute damage, but is slow. AoE defense down and group them up. Cooldown. The anti-death doesn't matter, but water doesn't have great PvE options, so she's up here based on raw damage. Stuns, which based on how Elemental Realm works, you need stuns, so she's a great second option, as well as does multiple of them. and just has good damage. AoE damage and erode stacks. AoE, defense down, AoE. Really, really good. Exoria, you can argue that she should also be an A, because she is part of that speed setup, giving you that attack buff. But, maybe next month she'll make her way up to the A tier. There's already been some significant changes. Damage, water just sucks in PvE. This is very, very good in PvE with Daisy. Both of these are very, very good in PvE. Just way less than Carnation, just speaking on how good Carnation is. But Incarnation is a step below these two. So reflect damage, forcing them to attack you. If not, they take the burn, which ends up being a lot in PvE. And right here gives you earth damage increase, but is slow, very similar to what we said with Chestnut. AoE, but slow. Both of these 1A, 1B, single target AoE. Windy was made for PvE, but doesn't do a damage increase, which is wild. Does good damage over time, but it's what I've been saying up here. It just sits there. It's fine in the elemental realm specifically. Anything else, dog doo-doo. Water sucks in PvE. Dog. There's nothing to really eat in PvE. Minus 1 or 2 bosses. Terrible. The poison damage can be okay, but it's so slow and minimal. Worse than burn damage for whatever reason. Candok is Candok, and slow stun. Let me know what you guys think down below. Till next time, guys.